Let's dive into our first big news story of the day. Daniel Cormier has called out Alex Pereira, accusing him of lying. Yes, you heard that right. The former UFC double champion and current analyst isn't buying into the excuse that Pereira was hacked this week after a controversial social media post stirred up the MMA world. On Wednesday, Alex Pereira posted a message on X, formerly Twitter, that raised eyebrows and had fans speculating about a possible rift between the Brazilian champion and the UFC. In the post, Pereira wrote, "I always answer the UFC's calls, but if they want to play with me, we can do that. I've never spoken poorly of the UFC, but with what I've just heard, I'm disheartened. I've already had thoughts of not fighting anymore, and after what was just relayed to me, this may be the start." It sounded serious, emotional even. The tone was strong, and the message hinted at a possible breakdown in the relationship between Pereira and the promotion. It got fans speculating. Did something go wrong with contract negotiations? Was Pereira denied a fight or something bigger? Then, only an hour later, Pereira did a complete 180. He took to Instagram and claimed his account had been hacked. According to him, he never wrote the message, and someone else must have posted it. That would have been the end of it if everyone believed the hacking excuse. But not Daniel Cormier. During a segment on ESPN, Cormier called it straight out. He said Pereira is a liar. He did not get hacked yesterday. He might have tweeted something and then somebody called him and was like, "Yo, calm down. I don't believe the hack thing, bro. It's too convenient. It was too specific." It kind of sounded like Pereira. Cormier didn't hesitate to double down either. He followed up with, "Wow, I can't believe you just called that out." To which he responded, "I'm saying it. I'm saying it public. I'm sorry. I'm saying it. I'm saying it in public." This drama becomes even more interesting when you factor in that the UFC still hasn't confirmed a main event for International Fight Week, one of the biggest annual events in the MMA calendar. Cormier speculated that Pereira might have been passed over for that spot, and this could have led to the emotional outburst. He laid out a scenario. The UFC reaches out to Pereira, asking if he's ready for a fight. Pereira, feeling like there isn't enough time to prepare, possibly declines. So the UFC considers giving someone else the shot. Pereira finds out and gets angry, so he vents online. Then someone from the UFC or his team calls him to cool things down, and that's when the "I got hacked" story comes out. Cormier believes this sequence of events makes a lot more sense, and based on how specific Pereira's original message was, it's hard to argue. DC added they might have told that boy that somebody else was gonna get that fight on International Fight Week, and he got mad. And with a chuckle, Cormier ends by saying, "I hope he doesn't get mad at me like he got mad at you, Michael Bisping." Drama, controversy, and fight week politics. Welcome to the UFC. Do you think Pereira was really hacked, or is DC spot on? Let's move on to our second major story of the day, and it's another surprising headline. Belal Muhammad says Kamaru Usman was crying during their podcast. Yes, you heard that right. According to Belal, the former welterweight champion got so emotional while recording a podcast with him that he ended up in tears. And that's the real reason why the episode has never been released. During a recent interview, Belal Muhammad opened up about what happened behind the scenes. He said that they recorded a podcast together, but it never made it to the public. Why? Because, as Belal tells it, Usman broke down emotionally during the recording and simply didn't want that version of himself out there for the world to see. Belal explained, "No. I mean, if you're a grown man and you start crying on a podcast, it's your podcast, and you start tearing up, why would you want to put it out there? Unless there's a really good editor that's gonna try to clear it up. But I don't think they got that much money." Now, some fans have been wondering why the podcast hasn't dropped yet. Was it a strategic move? Could they be holding on to it in case Usman ends up getting a title shot in the near future? Or maybe they didn't release it because Usman came off looking worse in the conversation. Belal seems to believe it's none of those things. It's all about Usman getting vulnerable and maybe not wanting fans to see that side of him. What makes this even more interesting is that Belal is also predicting Usman to lose his upcoming fight against Joaquin Buckley at UFC Atlanta on June 14th. That's a bold statement considering Usman's legacy and championship resume, but Belal is standing firm in his opinion. He said, "Usman and Buckley? I got Buckley. I think Buckley's riding high right now. He has a long streak. Usman's been out for 2 years, and when you're out for 2 years, it's hard to come back." And he's got a point. Usman hasn't fought since his loss to Khamzat Chimaev in October 2023, which marked his third consecutive defeat after previously dominating the welterweight division. On the other hand, Buckley is on a strong run of momentum and has shown incredible power and confidence in his recent outings. That kind of momentum can be be dangerous, especially against a fighter who's been inactive and dealing with the psychological aftermath of a losing streak. If Belal's prediction comes true, it could mark a serious turning point in Usman's career, a potential end to his title contention era, and a passing of the torch to a surging contender like Buckley. Whether or not the podcast ever gets released, one thing is clear: Belal isn't afraid to speak his mind, and he's not pulling any punches, even when it comes to former champions like Kamaru Usman. What do you think? Is Usman done, or does he still have one last run left in him? Moving on to another headline that's getting a lot of attention. Israel Adesanya says Belal Muhammad is getting knocked out. Yes, you heard that correctly. Former UFC middleweight champion Israel, the last stylebender Adesanya, is placing his bet on Jack Della Maddalena to score a knockout victory over Belal Muhammad at UFC 315, and he's not holding back on his prediction. In a recently uploaded video where Adesanya gives his full fight picks for the UFC 315 card, he confidently predicted that Jack will win, and not by decision but by knockout. Adesanya looked directly into the camera and said, "Jack Della Maddalena, method of victory? Knockout. Knockout, bro. Cause I just believe in I believe in them things, man. I believe in them things, man. Wouldn't let him go. Let's go, Jack." Adesanya is clearly fired up about this one. He's been a vocal supporter of Jack Della Maddalena for some time now, and he believes Jack has the striking skills, the precision, and the finishing ability to end Belal Muhammad's night early. That's a bold claim, especially considering Belal's reputation for being one of the most durable and consistent fighters in the welterweight division. But Adesanya didn't stop there. He also took a moment to show respect for Belal Muhammad, particularly for what he represents outside the cage. He added, "But yeah, respect to Belal. I like what he fights for as well. I like the fact that, especially after he won the belt, he fights for the people of Palestine. Because of what's going on still, it's good that they have someone currently to look up to that can champion their cause." Even while predicting a knockout loss for Belal, Adesanya made it clear that he respects what Belal stands for, especially his efforts to bring awareness to the suffering in Palestine. He acknowledged that win or lose, Belal will always be a champion to his people, saying, "And even if Jack wins, I still think Belal's a champion for those people, yo. Cause he fights for them, and he champions them, and they should hold him in high regard. But in this fight, I'm going for Jack Della Maddalena, cause that's my boy." So while Adesanya is backing his fellow striker in Jack, he's not dismissing the importance of what Belal brings to the sport and to the world stage as a voice for his people. Now, shifting gears to some unexpected but highly entertaining news from the MMA world. Jon Jones is set to coach against Nate Diaz on the Russian version of The Ultimate Fighter. Yes, you heard that right. Two of the most polarizing and charismatic figures in combat sports, Jon Bones Jones and Nate Diaz, will be going head-to-head as rival coaches on ALF Reality Season 2, a Russian reality show that mirrors the format of the UFC's legendary Ultimate Fighter series. Jon Jones confirmed the news himself by reposting the official promotional poster to his Instagram. Along with the image, he added a caption that read, "ALF Reality Season 2, Team Jon Jones versus Team Nate Diaz. I told y'all there's levels to this game." And honestly, this is one of those wild matchups that nobody saw coming, but now that it's happening, it makes total sense in the most chaotic, entertaining way possible. On one side, you have Jon Jones, arguably the greatest fighter in UFC history, a former light heavyweight champ and current heavyweight title holder. On the other side, there's Nate Diaz, a cult hero, former UFC title challenger, and fan favorite bad boy who always brings unpredictability and raw energy to the table. Both men are known for their larger-than-life personalities, and putting them together as opposing coaches is a recipe for pure gold. Whether it's trash talk, mind games, or philosophical rants about fighting, you can be sure that every episode will be loaded with viral moments. But what makes this even more interesting is the setting: Russia. ALF Reality is a growing MMA reality series based in Russia that takes a similar approach to The Ultimate Fighter, pitting fighters against each other in a tournament-style competition, guided by high-profile coaches. Bringing in American legends like Jones and Diaz instantly gives the show international attention and elevates its profile to a whole new level. The fan reactions so far have been a mix of confusion, amusement, and excitement. No one quite knows how Jones and Diaz ended up coaching on a Russian reality show, but that's part of the appeal. It's unpredictable, it's wild, and it's the kind of thing that only makes sense in the crazy world of MMA. From a marketing perspective, it's brilliant. With Jones and Diaz involved, this show could easily draw millions of views online, especially if some of their classic antics are caught on camera. Plus, it raises interesting questions. Will this lead to a fight between them? Is it just a one-off promotional stint? Or could this be a long-term partnership with international MMA promotions? Either way, fans are in for a treat. You've got two legends, two egos, and one wild setting, all coming together in one of the most unexpected matchups of the year. So what do you think about this? Is this the most unpredictable coaching lineup ever? And could we see Jon Jones and Nate Diaz actually square off one day? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Now, let's move on to another important update from the UFC middleweight division. Caio Borralho is not happy with how things are going, and he's made it clear that his frustration is reaching a boiling point. For the past few months, Borralho has been practically begging for a fight, calling out contenders, making social media posts, and doing everything possible to stay active in the minds of UFC fans and matchmakers. But despite all that effort, there's still been no official news on when he'll be fighting again or who he'll be facing. Borralho had previously set his sights on a matchup against top-ranked middleweight Nassourdine Imavov, a fight that made sense given both fighters' rankings and recent performances. However, according to Borralho, Imavov declined the fight, and since then, things have been quiet on that front. As the division continues to move forward, with multiple contenders getting matched up, Borralho is left wondering where his opportunity fits in. On Thursday, he took to social media to express his growing irritation with the situation. In a post that read more like a sarcastic rant than a standard call-out, Borralho pointed out the major fights happening in his division, and specifically called out Imavov for disappearing from the conversation entirely. DDP versus Khamzat, Whitaker versus Kizriev, Hernandez versus Dolidze, Adesanya versus Strickland, Robocop versus Hermanson. Can I start calling the FBI, CIA, or SECRETSERVICE to find where Imavov is? Clearly, Borralho is annoyed, not just by Imavov turning down the fight, but by the entire middleweight picture moving on without him. He followed up with another post aimed at the division as a whole. Everybody getting booked in the middleweight division. I think they realized how good I am. Can I retire now? There's a mix of humor and bitterness in his words, but the core message is clear. Borralho feels ignored despite having done everything right. He's undefeated in the UFC, he's called out ranked opponents, and he's actively promoting himself, yet the opportunities just aren't coming. To be fair, Borralho has been on a tear. His last fight was in August, where he scored a dominant unanimous decision win over Jared Cannonier, pushing his UFC record to an impressive 7-0. That kind of record usually earns a fighter more recognition and better matchups, yet Borralho remains in limbo. Whether this public frustration will finally get the UFC's attention is yet to be seen, but one thing's for sure, Caio Borralho is done waiting quietly. He wants answers, and he wants a fight. And if Imavov, or anyone else in the top 10, isn't willing to step up, Borralho is going to keep making noise until someone does. What do you think? Should Borralho be getting more respect and better matchups in the middleweight division? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Now let's move on to another major headline that's got the MMA world buzzing. Belal Muhammad gets embarrassed at the UFC 315 weigh-ins. What should have been a proud moment for the undisputed welterweight champion turned into a painfully awkward and uncomfortable experience. One that Belal will likely never forget. As Belal stepped up to weigh in for what is arguably the biggest fight of his career, something strange happened. The Montreal commissioner, the person overseeing the weigh-ins, didn't even recognize him. Yes, you heard that right. The undisputed champion, who's headlining Saturday night's UFC 315 main event against rising contender Jack Della Maddalena, had to stand there and awkwardly clarify who he was. For a few seconds, there was just silence and confusion, until a UFC staff member quickly stepped in to save the moment, explaining to the commissioner that yes, this was Belal Muhammad, the man fighting in the headline bout of the evening. Talk about an embarrassing oversight on what should have been a celebratory stage. This wasn't just any fight. This was Belal's first title defense, and that kind of disrespect, whether intentional or not, wasn't the kind of publicity he needed. In a moment where he should have been standing tall and commanding presence as the reigning 170-pound king, he was instead left to remind the world that yes, he belongs. And this moment matters. UFC President Dana White has already gone on record to say that the stakes for this fight are huge. The winner between Belal Muhammad and Jack Della Maddalena will play a massive role in shaping the future future of the welterweight division. Not only will the outcome solidify the winner's position at the top, but it also connects to bigger storylines, including what happens next for Ilia Topuria, the reigning featherweight champion who has his eyes on the lightweight title next. Speaking of Topuria, he's also making headlines. He recently changed his nickname back to El Matador after receiving serious backlash for trying to rebrand himself as Lenda. Fans were not on board, and the Georgian fighter decided to reverse course and stick with what fans knew and loved. But coming back to Belal, after the weigh-in fiasco, reporters quickly asked him how he felt about the situation and whether he thinks he's getting enough respect as champion. One reporter put it bluntly, "Do you feel like you're being treated as the weak champion? It seems like everyone's talking like you're the guy to be knocked off." Belal's response was as sharp and confident as ever. Yeah, 100%. I like that. I like being the guy they think is gonna lose. I've always been counted out from the start. Every time they said, "Oh, this guy's gonna beat you," I just kept winning. Let them keep that same energy, because when it's all said and done, when I'm the best welterweight to ever do it, they'll remember. I'm not here for hype, I'm here for legacy. So whether the commissioner forgot or not, one thing is certain, Belal Muhammad isn't going anywhere.